Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Goitsemang Khutsafalo. It's a pleasure to have you right here on this live Instagram interview on this Africa Day. So, as you already know that, as part of the celebrations today that you are having at the Stanbic Bank and all over the continent of Africa, we're going to be taking this time to look at some of the stories that we share as African children and some of the topics that we have concerning us as entrepreneurs. So, what we are going to be having today is a live conversation, and thank you very much for joining me on this today's discussion. So today I'm going to be joined by one of the greatest entrepreneurs I've seen in this country, Mr. Phenyo Moroka. And just a little bit about me: I'm an author, an entrepreneur, and also a radio personality. So I see a lot of people joining the conversation. It's a great delight, and I'm just going to invite you that you share this live stream with more people so that they can be able to join us right here. I'm broadcasting live from the Stanbic Bank incubator, and thank you very much for joining us. So just a little bit about who we are going to be having a conversation with. Mr. Phenyo Moroka has more than 15 years of experience, working with Botswana's private sector, and he was an anchor on Yarona FM's morning show. Most of you have seen him hosting most of the conferences, workshops, seminars as a corporate MC. He's an entrepreneur. He's also involved in a lot of business, from farming, media. He's been a brand ambassador for most of the other brands, and also a Washington Mandela Fellowship alumni, and also he holds a degree in human resource management from the University of Stellenbosch in South Africa, and we are going to be having the conversation with him right now. So do tune in so that we will be able to join in. He's coming in. So please share the live stream so that we can be able to have the conversation together. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm doing great, sir. You look very fresh.
Yeah, look, it's not too long since I've been in the film. So.
Yeah. All right. It's a pleasure for me, sir, to welcome you into this live stream to discuss the topic, Deferred Dreams. And you hold a lot of experiences when it comes to this topic. So I'm just going to give you a moment to introduce yourself, and so that you can kick off the conversation.
Yeah, look, I was watching your intro. First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you, of course, to Stanbic Bank Botswana also for inviting me to do this. You did a really good job introducing me. But yeah, just to reiterate what you said, I don't know how great an entrepreneur I am, but it's been quite a journey. A journey that started back in 2007. As you mentioned, I'm involved in businesses that are in real estate, property development to be specific, livestock farming, primarily cattle, as well as food distribution. And the business I'm involved in the food distribution space, specializes in plant-based foods. So that's a really exciting business that I've been involved in for a little bit over a year now. And that's really quite an exciting journey on that one.
Wonderful. So let's just dive right into it. So I wanted to move into the question where a lot of people are still wondering, what are we talking about when we talk about deferred dreams? So I wanted to know, what does this mean to you when we talk about deferred dreams?
To me, deferred dreams really means patience as well as sacrifice. I think when you choose to follow a career path in entrepreneurship, and you decide, okay, I'm going to be an employment creator, a business builder, there are a lot of things that you wish for in life. They almost have to take a back burner because you're not plugging into an already existing system. When you go into a job, whether it's with a corporate or government or whoever, you're plugging into an already existing system. Your job as an entrepreneur now is to begin and start the system from scratch. So it could be as simple as buying yourself a new car or moving out of your parents' house. Those little dreams, you have to put them on hold because now So it requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of sacrifice, I think, as well. So that, for me, when you talk about deferred dreams, those are the two words that really jump out for me.
Yeah. So do you have any dreams that you had to put on hold because of some circumstances that were beyond your control?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's been a number, but I think one that comes to mind is when I first came back from university. I went to university in South Africa. So when I first came
Yeah.
back from university, I'd been on campus radio, fallen absolutely in love with radio. And I knew exactly the type of radio, I knew the radio station I wanted to work for. I
Yeah.
knew the type of radio I wanted to do. And when I approached that radio station, they really had no time for me. The programs manager at the time had absolutely no time for me. He had no time for what I wanted to do. And at the time, I was, what was 22, 23 years old. And, you know, the type of radio I wanted to do, I think he just looked at it and said, but, you know, what does this 23-year-old kid know about talk radio? So, yeah, that was my first deferred dream. I ended up having to join the corporate sector, which didn't last too long. But I ended up joining the corporate sector. And, you know, funny enough, a few years later, I ended up working for that radio station. So, you know, the dream was deferred and not completely canceled.
Yeah, I don't think when a lot of people see you, you know, sitting with presidents, sitting with billionaires, sitting with dignitaries that you have hosted in most of the conferences, the likes of Dr. Strive Masiyiwa, the likes of our president, His Excellency the President, Dr. Eric Masisi. I think a lot of people don't think that you've been there, you know, where you were sitting down wondering if this will ever happen as you've always wanted. You know, when I grew up, and I have to tell you this, and I know it's my first time to tell you this, that I knew in my mind when I saw you at Yarona FM for the first time that, you know, if there is a show in this land, that if a billionaire was to land right here, right now, we would be proud to host him in. And that was your show when you were hosting it with Yarona FM.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. That means a lot. I think you know, my time with the Yarona FM was it was incredible. You know, I spent about 5.5 years with the Yarona FM, and I think it's done things for me and my life and my entrepreneurial journey that I don't think would have happened had my life not taken, you know, that particular path. So it's been absolutely brilliant. I mean, like you say, I've met president, even the former president. I hosted a number of times, shared the stage with him. I've shared the stage with so many international people. I've shared the stage with, you know, Sir Richard Branson. You know, so it's been a great journey in that side of the life. Yeah, definitely.
Great. So what advice can you give fellow Botswana and indeed our young African entrepreneurs all over the continent when it comes to, you know, when you are facing challenges or barriers in terms of fulfilling your own dream?
You know, that's a difficult one because you really need to look at what your context is. But I think to sum it up, a wise man, my father to be precise, he once said to me, you know, in life you will face a lot of challenges, and when you face the challenge, you can stress about it, or you can find a way to solve it and get over the challenge. And he says to me, look, I don't even let challenges get the best of me, because, you know, I'm going to stress about it, and what's it going to help? You know, all it's going to do, it's going to take my blood pressure up. But at the end of the day, the problem's not going to go away by me stressing about it or being overwhelmed. In fact, you know, the word he uses is, don't let your problems and your challenges overwhelm you. And I have to say, you know, having grown up with him and seeing the things that he's been through, you know, it's one of those things I absolutely admire, that, you know, this man has lost so much repeatedly, but still he keeps going. And you know, the more he loses, the more he gains at the same time. And, you know, the key thing is never let your challenges overwhelm you. You know, if you have a challenge, take a deep breath, step back, assess it, have a look and see where you may have messed up. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, everything happens because of the choices we make, you know. So you know, something's going to happen and you played a part, maybe 5 years ago, maybe 5 minutes ago, but there's definitely something you did that landed you in that position. So you have to look back and say, okay, where did I go wrong? What decision did I not make right? And then figure that out and figure out how to fix it. You know, it's simple, not easy, but it's quite simple.
Yeah, that explains why you stuck with Manchester United for this long.
Loyalty, brother, loyalty. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. It's been a painful
Yeah,
season. Before the coronavirus hit, it's been a painful few seasons really with Manchester United. But that's where my heart is. I mean,
yeah.
you can see the red is always there somewhere, and
Yeah.
that's what it's going to be for life.
Yeah, so let's zone into entrepreneurship in Botswana. I mean, I've listened to you a couple of times, but especially when you were a corporate MC, when you were doing intros, and I could see that you're very passionate about youth entrepreneurship and most of the challenges that we face right here as entrepreneurs. It's said that more than 85% of businesses die in Botswana. Most of them were invested by banks and some programs and initiatives. We have a lot of entrepreneurs, some of them here at the Stanbic Incubator, most of them at home. Others in their own offices, by what they're trying, to do something, but a lot of things are not coming together. So I wanted to find out from you, what do you think is the greatest challenges that our own African entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs in Botswana, are facing?
Wow, I think there's a few. I think the first challenge really is, a lot of businesses fail because of cash flow situations. So I think the one challenge that small business entrepreneurs and maybe even medium-sized entrepreneurs face in Botswana is just that I tend to feel that big companies bully small business, right?
Yeah.
That's a major challenge. That's my genuine feeling. Big companies bully small business. If you're lucky enough to get your foot in the door and get the business, you'll have done it. Sometimes having been squeezed ridiculously low for a price, and you just do it because you need to make business. And then the guys are not going to prioritize you as a small business when it comes to payment time. And you have rent to pay. You might have a team of 1 or 2 people that you need to pay. You might have your cell phone bill that you need to pay to try and find other customers. And you end up not being able to survive, not being able to pay your own rent, for instance, because you just don't have the money to do it. So I think that for me is the major challenge. Big business in Botswana tends to bully small business. They squeeze you for price. They take too long to pay you. So that's the one major challenge. And I think the other challenge as well is us as entrepreneurs ourselves. And this was, one of the lessons I had to learn the hard way in my entrepreneurial journey. And what I mean by that is we are very weak when it comes to our admin, right? We're very, very weak when it comes to admin, keeping our books in order. Businesses, as much as I say big business bullies small business, it's difficult to sit down with a big business if you can't even, tell them what it is you're about, if you don't know what your numbers are, if you don't know what your value proposition is. You can't sit down with a bank or any other financier and say, okay, I need some working capital. The business will say, okay, how much working capital do you need? And you don't even know how much it takes to run your business a month. You know what I mean? Our books are not in order. If a financier says, okay, I hear your story, Ntleledi management accounts, we don't even know what management accounts are, So I think from that perspective as well, Raijesa as entrepreneurs, because we don't take the time and invest the money to get our administrative side of the business up to par. I think it's a bit of a catch-22, because as a small business entrepreneur, as a guy who's just started, you are in survival mode. The first and most important thing is you need to make money to survive. And sometimes, spending a couple of extra grand on an accountant or trying to find a bookkeeping intern, it really falls down the priority line. So my advice to entrepreneurs would be, keeping your books and your admin in order is just as important as trying to find the next deal, because more often than not, the next deal will be determined by how organized your admin, your bookkeeping is. So I mean, those are my two challenges that I see.
Yeah, looks like Riakopi agrees with you. I can see on the comment, you know. I do personally also agree with you, because I work with entrepreneurs on a daily basis. You know, part of my job is sitting down with entrepreneurs and understand, listen to what they have to say. And in my experience, especially when I was dealing with investors, a lot of them were telling me that, because a lot of times when I was explaining to them what our problem is as entrepreneurs, we mentioned, like most people agree, access to capital. We talked about funding. We talked about high cost of things, like, and businesses, big businesses bullying small businesses. And then one investor posed me and he said, that's secondary problems that you guys have. The primary problem that you have is that we don't have investable businesses in Botswana. And that's a broad thing that when you look in deeper into it, you can see that as entrepreneurs, we disadvantage ourselves a lot when it comes to the basic of things that we need to be doing as entrepreneurs. So I wanted us to move into this question right now of, they say Africa is rich with possibilities, and I just wanted to find out from you, what are some of the untapped opportunities that you see in our continent?
I think at a macro level, the biggest opportunity we have as a continent is intra-Africa trade, right? Africans trading with other Africans. You know, if you look at it in terms of the other regions in the world, you know, the Americas, Europe, Asia, their intra-regional trade numbers range from 75% to 80%, right? And intra-Africa trade, the numbers range at about 10%. So of all the business that's being done on the continent, only 10% of that business is being done with other African businesses. Whereas elsewhere in the world, up to 80% of all the business that's being done is being done with businesses from that region, right? So for me, at a high level, at a continental level, at a macro level, that's where the biggest opportunity is. And I think one of the things that excites me the most about Africa right now is the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement that I think was signed by a good number of African countries last year, right? So that for me is opening up Africa, and it's now up to us as Africans to start trading with Africans, bringing it back home. I think, you know, if particularly with the advent of COVID-19 and how it's affected us here and what we've seen happening in the country, I think the massive opportunity lies in, first of all, buying Botswana-made and supplied products and services, right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And then the other thing is in manufacturing. I think we've seen the ability, manufacturing in Botswana being coming to the fore in the last couple of months since the lockdown happened, and you know, our imports reduced, etc., etc. So you know, I think we've got ability to manufacture. What we need now is capacity building. You know, we need growth partners, development partners such as government, financiers, the banks, the seeders of the world to come and help build the capacity, which is why I'm super excited actually, or I was super excited when Stanbic Bank launched the incubator where you are now, because that shows that Stanbic Bank is ready to really invest in the entrepreneur to make sure that we ultimately have those investable businesses. In terms of other industries, both at a local and a macro level, like on the continent, I think definitely food production is a massive opportunity. You know, and when I talk about food production, I'm talking right through the value chain, from farming to food processing, right through to the retailing of it. There's a massive opportunity. There's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be making our own food. And even if it's not at a large scale, you know, you don't have to have 1,000 cattle, you know, to run your farming business as a commercial entity or BMC. You don't have to be farming 200-300 hectares of land to be running your business as a commercial business. You know, have 20 hectares, have 10 hectares. You can bring out a lot of food. 10 hectares. So if we have 100 young Botswana, each one only 10 hectares. That's 1,000 hectares, you know, of crops that are coming out of the country for a particular season. So I think food food production is a massive one, and manufacturing definitely a massive one. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of entrepreneurs that have joined us right now. I agree with you because I can see from the comments, a lot of them are sharing the same sentiments as you're saying. So it's been a lovely pleasure having this conversation with you. So I just wanted to know if you have any parting words that you want to share. If there is one thing that you wish a Botswana entrepreneur could know, what would be that thing?
Learn business, right? And when I talk about learning business, it goes back to what we just mentioned about having your admin in order and that kind of stuff. You have to, you know, I recently, a while ago actually, I read this as I was reading up and trying to make myself a better business person. I don't remember whose book I was reading, and it was talking about if you want to do something, you need to learn the language, right? Yeah. And the language of business is finance and accounting, you know. So learn that, and the most important criterion for me when you learn business, besides learning the theory of accounting and understanding what a P&L is, understanding what your profit margins are, understanding what goes into cost of goods, what goes into operational expenses. You know, you need to learn that kind of lingo to be able to chat to a bank, right? I mean, if a bank manager says, okay, you want to borrow 30,000 pula for 3 months worth of working capital, how much exactly is your OPEX? If you don't know what OPEX is, you're not going to answer that question and your deal is done. Nobody's going to fund you. But the important thing I think is learn to manage your cash flows. Your customers can pay you on time, and then you can take the money and channel it elsewhere. And this is a mistake that I personally made with my very first business. You know, the business was, you know, making revenues in the millions. I was still very young in my early 20s, and I took my money and I took the business's money and funded a lifestyle with it, right? So that's one of the big mistakes that I made, and I learned, and I have learned now that, you know what, if you look at your P&L and you take industry averages, etc., at the end of the day, maybe 10% of that money is yours. And I'll break it down for you. If you are doing 10,000 pula worth of revenue, right? You have suppliers to pay. So let's say you're buying something and you're selling something, and take a margin of about 35%, right? So you've made 10,000 pula, and 35% of that now goes towards your supplier, or even more. Let's call it 50%. You're paying your supplier 50%, and you're left with 5,000 pula, right? The other 5,000 pula, you now have to pay internet, rent, petrol, etc., your operating expenses. At the end of the day, you're left with X amount, and then you still have to pay tax if your business is running profitably. So you pay the tax man, and at the end of the day, you've got $1,000. That's your profit, right? So we need to learn to manage the cash flow that way. And I think the first thing you really need to learn, and Ria's right, you know, your first big bucks, you go buck wild. Yes, no, I did that. I did that.
Just about to read that comment.
Yeah, and yes, eventually you do get the hang of money, but you know, learn to do that. And I think the most important person to pay, and you know, I know a lot of these self-help books say pay yourself first, pay yourself first. In business, no, pay your supplier first. That's how your business will survive. Okay, pay your supplier first. Make sure no matter what you do, your supplier is paid in full. Then you can start enjoying and maybe, you know, having the privileges of owning a business. But definitely, if you learn business, you learn the language of business, and then you learn the art or the skill of managing your cash flow properly, you know, your business should survive without a doubt.
Yeah, I wrote this in my book, that the book is called Think Like an Entrepreneur, Act Like a Prostitute. I remember you laughing when I said that when you were with Dr. Stramasiwa and our president. So in the book I wrote, a lot of people don't understand that businesses have got two sides. We've got the craft of the business, and then we've got the business of the craft. So a lot of entrepreneurs in Botswana spend more time, you know, improving the craft of their business, how the thing gonna look like, how it's gonna function, and all of that. But they ignore the business of craft, the business of doing that thing that you wanted to do. And a lot of this has put us in a disadvantage. Even as much as we are crying for opportunities, but in my view, most of us are not really ready. But I'm glad that even as most people are actually commenting right now, we see the value in us valuing our admin, valuing our business of the craft, just proper etiquette. If we lose to business, at least let's not lose on the account of etiquette, on admin, and all of that. As long as all of this is still lacking, we have no right in saying people are beating us in business. Because everybody that comes here, you must know that they're very serious about their admin. They're very serious about the rest of their business. They're beating you on two fronts, on the craft and on the business of the same craft. So I can see a lot of people are requesting for more minutes. So I'm going to give them 10 more minutes with you. So if you have any questions that you have for Mr. Moroka, please put it on the comment box below, and we'll read the question out and we'll be able to share with him. So I just wanted to ask you this question, now coming into this topic of today, deferred dreams. You know, how did you, because I listened to you at one point, I think we were at Buang, and you were giving a talk, and you were telling a sad story of the lowest of point of your life. And but I see you now, man. You look happy and fresh. I've been on your Instagram the whole week. And how did you move from that lowest point? Because business can do you things, life can do you things, but you've got big dreams. And how did you bounce back to you being you now?
The support of my family. That's the long and short of it. I had and I still have a very, very good support structure. And, you know, that support structure is still so good right now that, you know, my brothers, they literally asked me, yo, how do we connect? You know, we want to make sure we don't miss your live interview, you know. So that's how strong the support structure is. And I think being a business person and being an entrepreneur and a startup entrepreneur, that's one thing you really need. You need to have a very strong support system. That support system doesn't have to come from your family. It can come from mentors. It can come from peers. It can come from, you know, so many different places. And I think the important thing to realize, especially as a business person, is, you know, we all have different challenges, you know. And my belief, God does not give us all the same challenges, right?
Yeah.
Because he did not create us the same. And let me tell you when I say that. I genuinely believe that anything and everything you go through, Mobutselo, God has designed specifically for you. You know, what I'm saying is, you know what I mean?
True.
Right. 100%. And the perfect example is this. I'm still very, very blessed to have my father in my life. He's still alive. He's still healthy. You know, he's been through a lot. He was attacked by a lion on the farm a few years ago, and he survived that because God knew my strength is not on surviving without him, his guidance, right? But there are people who don't have their fathers, you know, and that's their cross to carry. That's their burden to carry. And the reason why I'm making this sort of analogy and example is that we all have challenges, but our challenges are different, and no one person's challenge is bigger or smaller than the other's challenge. That's the first thing to realize. So
100%.
when you come into a challenging situation and you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, like I was at some point in my life, you need to remind yourself, so many people are struggling as well with something. That's the first thing. Before you even reach out to a support system or your support system comes to you, you need to remember what how knows. And then also, when you feel that your dreams and your entrepreneurial desires and visions and goals are taking long to pass, and this guy is now driving the luxury German car and his house has got the pool and, you know, he's really, really doing well. Because you're not on his or her path, you're not on his or her journey, and you don't know how that person has gotten those things. All you see is the things. You don't know what it guy, you know. And I think this is very, very important for entrepreneurs, because a lot of entrepreneurs, most of entrepreneurs will fail, and will fail multiple times. And then you'll see that one guy who just seems to have the Midas touch. He's under 30, he's got a this, he's got a that, he's got 10 businesses that are basically flying. And you start to doubt yourself, right? You start to doubt yourself. Am I doing it right? Am I, just take it easy. You're on your journey. It comes with its own time. You're on your learning path. And if you really believe in the journey, then trust the process to get you to that journey. I think the phrase "trust the process" has become something of a catchphrase of late. I love catchphrases. I love cliches. And the reason I love catchphrases and cliches is because it won't be a catchphrase. It doesn't become a cliche. It's an anitimuti. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Awesome. So let's deal with these two questions that we have on the comment box. The first one is Mr. Phenyo Moroka open for VC consultations? I think that is venture capital.
Am I open for venture capital consultations? Look, I'm happy to have any conversation around business and entrepreneurship. I don't know what this person wants to say or ask me about venture capital. I have some idea about venture capital, but I'm definitely not a venture capitalist. So I might not know as much as that person might need, but definitely I'm down to have coffee and talk about business all day, any day.
Great. As a question from Riakopi, she's saying, how do we lead our young staff as a young entrepreneur yourself? There is a tendency of familiarity that I'm seeing.
A tendency of familiarity?
Yeah.
Is that?
I think they're talking about, when you are, especially when you're a young person, when you hire your peers, a lot of times is that you work with people that you cannot reprimand, you cannot put to account. And how do you gain control in terms of leading? I think even the lead he wrote in capital letters to say lead, like properly lead them as an entrepreneur.
I think, to lead, for me, you need to lead from the front and lead by example, right? Yeah. And one of the lessons that, again, I reference my father a lot, and it's because I think for me, he's my #1 role model. He's the man I look up to the most. So I take a lot from his example. And, when we were growing up at the farm, he would say, he would really force us to work. We must work alongside the guys. And I've come to learn that the reason he did that was to show I don't have you here because I can't do it by myself, or I can't do it myself, right? So I think when you're leading people and definitely leading your peers, you have to be tough, right? It's your business, it's your money, it's your time, it's your lack of sleep that you've put into this thing, and they need to realize it's not a game. You're here to work, and I think the best way to show that is to show a person if you don't pull your weight, you can go. I can do this. It'll be heavy for me, yes, but don't think because you're here I can't do it. Right? Yeah. So that for me is one of the best examples to show, especially highly you need to use your brain or your body, to do this thing. And that's why it's important to understand every aspect of your business, from the accounts to the customer relations to the pricing to everything. It's really, really important to understand that, because people will try to take you for a ride. And unfortunately, the day and age we live in, there really is too much familiarity, and there isn't that respect for the hierarchy, if you will. Back in the day, whether a person was 20 years older than you or 20 days younger than you, because you're the boss, you're the boss. And I mean, let's not mince the words. It's your business, you're the boss. So when you're leading your peers and there's too much familiarity, you need to put your foot down and have people understand, what I say goes, okay? And that's just the bottom line. But that doesn't mean it doesn't mean become a tyrant, right? Yeah. It's a fine balance that I think you only learn with time, but definitely you start by putting your foot down and letting people know but also being fair. You need to be firm, you need to be fair, and you also need to listen to advice. But a different perspective might do you a lot of good. So it's a very sensitive balancing act, and I think you only get it right with time.
100%. I'm going to take the last question here. It says, it's from Victor. He says, how do small business owners or informal sector find confidence to bounce back to operate after the coronavirus? How do they manage expectations, positive or negative?
Wow, that's a loaded one. Let's break it up. How do you bounce back? The first thing is, do you believe in what you were doing? Because sometimes, the failure of a business is a blessing in disguise, right? That's just how life works. So I think you need to look back at this thing and say, okay, I haven't been operating for two months. Was this thing adding value? Was I adding value to other people? And if you feel you do, and you believe in it, and you feel it can grow from a small informal business to a small formal business with some structure, and then grow like that, the next thing you have to say is, okay, what do I need to kickstart it again? Do I need that money? The guys from SIDA, Babuleka, the Letlabile Fund, for instance. So there's financing available for informal sector businesses. So if that's what you need to go and talk to those people. As for confidence, man, confidence is a very difficult thing, and I think we all struggle with it, at some point. But I think if you believe in what you're doing and you believe in your business, it will give you confidence. And you also must remember that Ole Goitsemang, Phenyo, Ole Ria, whoever you are, you won't be everything to everybody. There will be critics. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter where you are. Some will love you, some will hate you, some will not even care whether you are alive or not. And that's just the game of life. That's just the game of life. So if you believe in what you're doing and you think, this can add value, I can grow from this, but I can also contribute to adding value to my community, to my country, then do it. Do it with the fear. Do it with the doubt. Do it with just do it.
Yeah. So it's been a lovely pleasure and honor and a privilege for me to sit here with you and have this conversation. A lot of entrepreneurs that I've seen online have really enjoyed this, and kudos to the Stanbic Bank for this conversation. So thank you very much, sir, and I'm hoping that you have a lovely week and a lovely year. I still believe 2020 is one of those greatest years. That's why I give you that. So that's a lot.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks so much to Stanbic Bank. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great year as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
All right. So thank you guys for tuning in today's conversation, and I'm hoping that you enjoyed and you'll be able to share this also. I'm hoping that the technical team is going to save this conversation also on the Instagram account for Stanbic Bank, and you'll be able to rewatch it again and share it with your friend once. Just one more thing, I'm sure that you will not forget to do the necessary things. So as an entrepreneur, as an African, this is one of the things that I've seen today. I saw a quote that said that we are not Africans because we live in an African soil. We're Africans because our souls are at home right here in Africa. And I just wanted to encourage you that all the dreams that you have and all the visions that you wanted to create, the lives you wanted to impact, remember that it takes better entrepreneurs to better communities. So the better you is the best gift that you can ever give to African continent. Your dreams are still relevant, and one day you will see a lot of things that you've always dreamt to be a part of, or some of the experiences that you wanted to have in your life. And it's a privilege for me to be having you right here on this live stream. And thank you very much for joining us today. I'm hoping that I'll see you on the next live stream if the opportunity will arise. So one more thing, please do not forget the most important part of you staying safe from the virus. So exercise all the precautions, wear a mask everywhere, have a sanitizer, and get yourself registered to any facility that you are getting to. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you very much, guys. I love you. Thank you to Stanbic Bank.